What's up, everyone? So, I hope everyone's doing well today. We have a question today from Mike Jones who says, most interesting Bunkie? So, to answer this question, first off, I always feel this need to be kind of logical with things. And I would say at the end of the day, they're in a medium, there's no real bunkies. That terminology isn't really something that's used. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing in general. Typically it's cellie, because in a medium, the guy you're with you're both locked in a cell together. So you'd be a cellie. In a low or a minimum security, where it's a dormitory style, then it would absolutely, there are some people who would call them that. I still call them cellies. I don't really like the term bunkie. It just makes me think we're at summer camp, and it's definitely not that. So if I had to say my most interesting one, probably there was a Sureño who's a Southern Californian gang member, basically. But I really liked him. I thought he was really cool. Tried getting me to be a Sureño, and I was like, I'm Portuguese. I'm not. I'm not. We're not close. We're on the different continents, man. So, anyways, when I first met him, I met him, and he was a really interesting dude. He smoked a lot of deuce, which is K2, which is basically synthetic cannabis, but it's not. It's not cannabis. It's really, really just toxic crap, basically. And I've seen a lot of dudes get hurt doing it, have seizures. Dudes have died from it. But he was just a really interesting dude. He was super institutionalized. He was what we call burnt, which means that, at the end of the day, he had spent a lot of time in prison. So when he came to the prison I was at, he came into that medium, and he had just come from USP, or United States Penitentiary. He came from Victorville, USP, which is nicknamed Victimville. It's a really bad federal prison. Not the worst, but it's not a good place, essentially. And I never had any issues with him. Honestly, that's why I really liked the higher security, was because everyone there is super respectful. This guy he came in very straightforward. He's like, hey, listen, man, here's my paperwork. I'd like to be your cellie. This is where they're assigning me, but I'm not gonna, I'm not coming in. So the attitudes in a camp is if you get assigned to a certain bunk or a certain cell, in a camp they don't have cells, but you get assigned to a certain bunk, right? You go there, and people will just, at a camp, they'll just throw their crap on their bunk and move in, and there's no real respect. So at a lot of places, in a medium, definitely, you get assigned to a cell, and first off, usually when you walk in, your homeboys are going to walk up to you. So you're going to have, for me to be white dudes walk up to me, where you from? You got 30 days to get your paperwork. Here's the deal. You know what I mean? And they kind of lay it out we use these showers if that's, how that institution is, or, we do this. This is how things work here. They lay it out so that you understand. And they give you a care package if you're not, fucked up. And by that, I mean, a child molester or a rat. And at the end of the day, with mask guys, they'll be like, hey, listen, are you fucked up? And if you're like, oh, no, I'm not, they'll take you at your word, and, you get your paperwork. But if you come back and you are, you're probably gonna get ran up top. Anyway, side issue, I digress. So with him, he came in and he was like, hey, listen, here's my paperwork. But I had known him, though. So when I had first gotten there, I had seen him, and I saw him he got brought to SHU. And he got brought to SHU for drugs. What a shock. But when he'd been sentenced, he had sentenced to 5 years. and he ended up stabbing a few people, and now he's got a lot of time. Like, he's been down for 15 years, and I want to say he had like another 10 or 15 to go. So yeah, but that's just kind of, that's his life, you know. That's like, that's gang life, man. That's why, like, I never was trying to get involved with any of that crap, because it's just a bad move. You know, a lot of people get to prison like, oh, I'm going to get with a gang, you know, whether it's like Nazis or, you know, Sureños or MS-13 or whatever it may be, like whatever the gang is that you're looking at, and it ends horribly for those dudes because they get involved with it. Like, oh, like, this is like, you know, my group, and like, this is how I have security, and this is how I avoid like getting victimized. And the reality is, at the end of the day, in those gangs, you're going to get the most victimized, but it's going to be at the hands of the gang. So they're going to be like, hey, listen, here's a knife, go stab that dude, you know, depending on how it operates. And so you do it, or, you know, you put in that work, or you're going to be the job, you know, to quote Chad Marks, you know. It's very, it's definitely not a verbatim quote, but, it's true, depending on which car you're in. And, it's unfortunate, but that's just how it is. So, with that, there, he was really interesting, but he was very respectful, you know, and I remember there was one time where I came back from the law library, and I came in, and we had like this little, basically a piece of sheet steel that's like a desk. It's like this wide, you know. It's not a desk, and like, I remember I came in, I put my stuff on the desk, and as you know, I'm organizing my stuff. And like, I heard him behind me, and like, I sat down and I'm minding my own business, because it's like, you know, you do what you want to do, I do what I want to do. Stay out of my way, I stay out of your way. And it was, like I said, he's very respectful, dude. Clean. I really like that. So I heard him like kind of moan, you know, and I'm like, all right. And then I heard it again, and I'm like this something's wrong here. So I remember I swiveled. There's it's like a metal kind of stool thing that's attached to the desk, you know? So I kind of turned like this, and I look back at him, and he's like leaning on the bed like, oh, and I was like, his hands are on his knees. He's kind of half bent over, and I'm like, dude, are you all right? And like, he didn't even look at me, no eye contact, no nut, just like I wasn't even there, just ooh. I'm like, yo, are you good? So like, I went to go look down, and as I went like this, leaning forward, he was like, and I was like, so I sat back up, because I was like, oh, he's about to throw up. He had thrown up in my face. So I sat back up, and then that's exactly what happened. He just went forward and threw up. It was everywhere. So like, I like spread my legs like this, because he's shooting down on the concrete floor. It splats. So I'm like, I go like this. So, you know, back up, I have my legs spread. So like, he's throwing up, you know, about a foot in front of me. And I'm just like, yo, you good? You good? He was good. He was just really high. And then like, I'm watching him, and he's like this, throwing up. And then he stops throwing up, and he starts moving forward, like falling forward. Now, this happens with dudes on K2. They'll nod out, they'll pass out. But you have to think, that floor is hard concrete. There's no softness to it. So if you fall on solid concrete like that, like you fall on your eyebrow, you massive gouge in your eye, like, and nothing bleeds like a head wound, you know? So that's something like, all right, we had throw up all over the floor now. Okay, that's one thing, right? I'm definitely not trying to have his blood all over the floor too, with the throw up, and you know what I mean? So like, as he started coming forward, I took my hands like this, and he's a little dude like me, you know, but he's stocky, he's built, but he, like, when he started leaning forward, I just took my hands and I clapped him on his shoulder blades. But when I put him on his shoulder blades, I put him like this. So when he kept falling down, I could perch up like this and hold him, you know? So I did that, and I'm like, yo, you good? You good? you all right? And I'm like shaking him like a little bit, try to bring him back, and it's not bringing him back. He's super high. He just spent 6 months in SHU, or the hole, in solitary confinement for getting high. I just didn't care. And so I'm holding him, you know, I'm like, yo, you good? You good? You good? You know? And fellow white dude, his name was Country, and Country had been down to ridiculous amount of time. Country, he's the only guy I met in Feds who had a beard that was a little bit longer than mine. Country was what they call a dirty white boy. And he was originally, Country was from Florence. So he was at the USP. He was at the high security USP prison in Florence. And like, when he got there, he had like 30 years or something. And when he got there and they're like, oh, what do you got? You know, like after these people met him, stuff like that. They go, what do you got for time? He's like, oh, I got 30 years. They're like, oh, you're a short timer. Like no one in this, you know, block has anything less than 60 or 120. It's some craziness like that. It's just absolutely mind blowing. But he's you know, from Texas, just straight, you know, white dude. And I was a Boston dude. So like the Boston car is not really racist. That's one of the things I liked about it, you know, because it's not how I am. So it's, you know, it was nice being with a bunch of white dudes who weren't Nazis, you know, that was one thing I was worried about, you know, like a good portion of my family is black. Like my cousin Geneva is black. And you know, my cousin Ed's black, and then like, that's just what it is. So like, I grew up with Spanish people, with black people, with white people. Like, with that said, like, you know, in prison though, it's different. Like, you know, you stick to your own kind. So, Sureño being in the cell with me was fine, you know, because of his ethnicity. He's not pure white, but that's, you know, it's what it is. So, anyways, that's a whole nother conversation. But Country was in Feds because butt naked, he's high as shit, and he hears someone outside, and the PO was actually coming for his wife. So Country basically had been given a ton of time because he tried to kill a probation officer, basically. This PO came out to Country's house, and Country was actually on probation, but the PO wasn't there for Country. He was there for Country's wife, who basically skipped out. And Country didn't know that, and he didn't know he was a probation officer. So he ended up, so he's telling me the story, and wicked Southern accent. I'm not going to try to, you know, do it like he did, because it's just, it'll come out horribly, and Southern people might find it insulting. So, but he was telling me, he's like, you know, he's in the house with his wife, and they're going back and forth, and he hears something outside, and like, he's butt naked. So he was like, I grabbed my shotgun and I grabbed my hat, or, you know, I put my hat on his cowboy hat. He puts his hat on. And he's like, he tells his wife, turn off the lights. When I tap on the window, turn the lights on. And she's like, all right. So he goes outside in the darkness with the shotgun, and he goes out on his porch, and he goes down these stairs, and then he goes back up against, there's like some double doors at the bottom. So he goes up against these doors. He's got the shotgun. And it's just like swinging in the breeze, you know. And the guy comes out of the car, walks up, starts heading up the stairs, and Country taps on the glass, walks up, aims the shotgun at the PO. The light comes on. The PO sees the light come on. Then he looks down a little bit, and he sees Country with a shotgun pointed at him, butt naked. And I was like, oh, U.S. probation. And, you know, just like, you know, get the fuck off my land. And he's like, oh, I'm here looking for, you know, he said, you know, Country's wife's name. And Country's like, you want to die? And he was like, no. And he took off, and he jumped in his car. And Country shot the car, you know, which is a really stupid move in hindsight. But the guy took off, and, you know, the next day, a bunch of U.S. Marshals and Country's probation officers showed up, and they grabbed him up, and that was that, you know. Country got a ridiculous amount of time. So that was country. You know, I remember one time there was a chomo, a child molester, that had taken his chair and he put it outside a country's cell, and country came out, and he's very much a traditional dude, like as far as convicts go. So like he came out and he saw this dude and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm watching TV." And country's like, "Get the fuck out of here. Get off my stoop." Because it's like right outside of his cell. So he goes, you know, his stoop. So get the fuck out of here, you know. And the dude's like, "I'm allowed to be here. You can't, you know, make me get away from here." And country was like, he was like, you know, country is probably 65, 70 years old. But I'd be nervous to throw hands with him. But like, you know, country was like, and she's like, "I'm going to go get my goddamn boots on and come out here and stomp your baby raping ass to death." And when he got his boots, and by the time he came out, the dude was gone, and, you know, never sat on country's porch again. But that's kind of like, that's my point. You know, that's country. So, you know, country probably knew what was going on with my cellie, you know, because he's not stupid and he's been around a while. So like, I had no clue. I got back from the law library, doing law research, totally clueless. So I you know, so anyway, so I'm holding the dude up, you know, so I'm holding the dude up like this, and, you know, I'm holding him up, and I'm like, I look up like this, and when I turn this way, this is my cell door. So like when I turn this way, I look and I see country, and country's staring at me. Then he looks at this dude, and he looks back at me, and he's like, I was like, "Yo, you gonna help me in here?" And he's like, he just turned around and walked away. I was like, "Oh, you son of a bitch." So, you know, after, you know, 10 minutes after, the dude was back to it, and like when he came back, he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. And, you know, basically went through the entire cell, cleaned it from top to bottom, made it, you know, profusely apologized. Like, he was more upset about it than I was, you know, and he cleaned the hell out of the cell. So like, I was like, whatever, man, you know, it's all taken care of anyways. You fixed it. So I remember I went to go see country, and country was like, "Oh, how you liking being with them Sureños?" But that was one of my cellies, and he's definitely interesting. I liked him because he was super respectful, you know. Every day he got up at 4 a.m. and he was up before they opened the cell doors, and I thought that was interesting. So he's like, "Oh, like, you should try it. You know, it's good to be up early and blah blah." And it's screw, man. I was like, you know, at first I was like, I'm not getting up. You know what I mean? And so I ended up doing it. I ended up, it's something that I like, and so now I'm up. You know, even to this day, I'm up early as hell. So that was probably the most interesting one. Probably the worst one I had was actually an old white dude from Boston. I really didn't like him. He's a biker, and I'm not gonna get into the biker gang he's with, but like, I know the guy who basically ran the Boston car in that prison. His name's Michael Fitzgerald. He's you know, got 8 life sentences. He's never getting out. But that was pretty much the dude I hung out with the most in Feds. And if you guys ever seen like the movie The Town, Fitz, or Michael Fitzgerald, you can look him up. He's out of Charlestown. He basically ran a flower shop. So if you watch the movie The Town, he was the florist. And I know there's a lot of people who, especially, you know, especially Charlestown guys, they'll say like, you know, "Oh, I'm the guy that was the guy from the movie The Town." Like, if you actually look up Michael Fitzgerald, you'll see that he's the real deal. That's really what he was. So I remember he showed me a letter from Ben Affleck one time, and Ben Affleck wrote him and was like, "Oh, I'm going to be in this movie, and I'd like to come through and get your input on it," and blah blah. And you know, Fitz wrote him back, and he told him, he's like, "Go fuck yourself," using me, trying to get me another indictment. I'm not trying to go back and forth to court constantly. But that's Fitz. Like super pessimist doesn't even begin to describe him, you know. But like as far as like prison politics goes, super. He's a really devious dude. You know, Fitz has been in prison for 45 years. So in federal prisons, he's called the old man. That's what people call him. I call him Fitz because that's what I like to call him. Or Grandpa. Call him Grandpa too. Which he loves, you know. He does have a lot of family that come and visit him, so he really enjoyed that. But really a lot of interesting people there, you know. Like you said in my other video, I've met more millionaires and feds than ever in my life, you know, which is definitely interesting. It's an eclectic mix of get money people, you know, because a lot of the people that are serving time for federal cases, they're there for making money on an interstate or international level. And that's why they're in feds and not in the state prison, you know? But you put like these kind of, I guess I call them like top criminals, you know, together because you have like 2.2 million people incarcerated in this country and only like 100,000, you know, are actually in feds. So, you know, those guys that are doing big things, I'm not encouraging that. You know, don't go to prison. It's a waste of time. It's stupid. It sucks. It's you know, either super boring and tedious or, you know, someone's dying and it's horrible. You know, like it's all pain and it's all suffering and it all sucks. None of it is good. I don't care what anyone says. So that would probably be the most interesting one I had. And the one I kind of liked the most, but he was really unique. I remember, like, you know, watching him, like, you know, 'cause you're in the cell together, and like he'd be like, "Oh, I gotta take a piss," and I'm like, "All right, cool," and like, but he would sit down. So that you have like, you know, if this is the toilet seat, and like this is the pipe where you flush the handle, like your public restroom stalls with the flush handle, you know, with the pipe that goes up to it. Like he would sit facing the pipe. It would be like, imagine going to take a shit on the toilet, but you put like a book on the back of the toilet to read, and you sit the opposite way that you usually sit. Like that's how he sat to go to the bathroom, take a piss or whatever. Which is interesting, and like you told me you'd done that because if you do it like that, then like when you take a piss, you know, a bunch of liquid doesn't come out of the toilet. I was like, that's cool, man. I'm not sitting down to take a piss. Like, I don't care how long you've been in prison. Like, I'm not doing it. And he's fine with it. He's like, I don't care. You do whatever you want. It's your bid the way you want, man. You know? Yeah, he's good. The last time I heard, he got transferred back to USP Victorville. So he got too many shots and just what it is. But he's definitely one of the more interesting dudes, and there's a million people like that are there though, and that's kind of the crazy thing about it. So, anyways, I hope that answered your question, Mike Jones. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and just like I did with this one, I'll answer them in a video. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next video.